He clearly earns only a little over 200 a day. Yet every day he smokes imported cigarettes that cost 70 and drinks whiskey that costs 100 a glass. Because he spends money so freely, he is so broke that he even has to ask friends for rice just to fill his stomach. Unexpectedly, on the way home, the bag of rice tore open, and all the rice spilled out and fed the pigeons. But he was not upset about it. Instead, he went home and spent some tender time with the boyfriend he had loved for many years. As they slowly took off their clothes layer by layer, like peeling an onion, they were shivering from the cold and only then realized that the heating had long been cut off because they had not paid the bill. The passion that had just begun also faded away. Every night before going to bed, Miso carefully sorts and stores the money he has left, using it to pay rent and medical expenses. He has a strange illness, and without medicine, his hair will turn whiter and whiter. So he has no choice but to set aside part of his already meager salary to maintain this last bit of dignity. In the shabby room, the most eye-catching thing is an orange suitcase being used as a table. Suddenly, there is a knock on the door. It is the landlord. In a polite but firm tone, he says that the rent is going up. The pressure instantly makes the already tiny room feel even more cramped. A cockroach quietly crawls out from a dark corner, as if trying to escape upward, but perhaps startled by Miso, it quickly shrinks back into the corner. Miso makes a living doing housekeeping, cleaning, and small repair jobs, so he has to quickly find a new employer. The woman looks young and dresses glamorously. At first, he thinks she will be hard to please, but she actually likes Miso's cheerful personality and decides on the spot to hire him. The woman lives in a luxurious apartment, but it is a terrible mess. The drawers are cluttered with condoms and pregnancy tests. Miso quickly and efficiently cleans everything up. In the woman's bedroom, he finds a graduation photo from her university days. In the picture, the woman's smile is innocent and bright, completely out of place with the luxury around her. Looking at it, Miso cannot help thinking of himself. The difference is that he has not let society drag him along with the crowd. He has held onto his own principles. He goes back to the familiar bar, still starting with a glass of whiskey and then a cigarette. It gives him immense satisfaction. Passing through the bustling city center, he sees the square filled with young people waiting to welcome the new year. At the moment the countdown ends, he turns his head and sees fireworks blooming in the night sky. They are brilliant, but vanish in an instant, just like the youth he never had time to properly say goodbye to. Looking back, what exactly has life given him? As usual, Miso goes to the convenience store to buy cigarettes, but the brand he smokes most often has gone up in price by half. He has no choice but to settle for cheaper cigarettes. Even so, when he calculates his finances late at night, his already fragile budget shows a negative number for the first time. He adds up every expense. Aside from the necessary costs he cannot touch, his pen hovers between whiskey and cigarettes. After thinking it through carefully, he finally makes a decision and firmly crosses out the rent. Early the next morning, Miso gives up the room and moves out. Everything is getting more expensive, yet wages never seem to rise. In order to hold on to his only pleasures, he can only force himself to move. While packing, he accidentally finds old photos from the days when he played in a band. Bright memories of youth come back to him, and he decides to visit friends he has not seen for many years. A suitcase and a backpack are all he owns. The first friend he visits, Wei-Ning, already works at a big company. To keep up with the demands and intensity of the job, he even gives himself glucose shots during lunch breaks. Seeing Miso's luggage, Wei-Ning immediately understands why he has come. Miso wants to stay at his place for a few days. Wei-Ning is surprised that Miso has ended up in such a difficult situation. He is even more shocked that Miso would rather give up his housing than give up cigarettes and whiskey. In the end, Wei-Ning politely refuses him with an excuse. In the eyes of his friends, Miso may be a strange person, someone different from everyone else. In this fast-paced age, he seems to still be living in the past. Dragging his suitcase, Miso goes to see his second friend, Xianjun. This time, he thoughtfully brings a gift box of eggs. As soon as they meet, Xianjun rushes over and hugs him. Xianjun is happy to see his old friend, but his family clearly is not. During dinner, Xianjun works alone in the kitchen, and there is not even a place for him at the table. The small kitchen is frighteningly quiet, filled only with the sound of dishes clinking. It is obvious that the family does not welcome Miso. That night, Xianjun and her husband argue because of Miso's arrival. Miso feels guilty for causing trouble, so he silently begins wiping the floor. Suddenly, Shinjin walks in. Seeing Miso kneeling on the ground, she snatches the rag away. She cannot help but complain. Even though her in-laws run a restaurant, not one of them has cooked a single meal since she got married. She has silently taken on all the housework herself. Miso quietly listens as she pours out the bitterness of her life. Who would guess that this housewife was once an ambitious keyboard player? The hardships of life have worn away her sharp edges. After so many years apart, they cannot help reminiscing about the old days. Miso gently brushes the dust off an electronic keyboard nearby and plays a song Shinjin once wrote. When he turns and asks if she has written any songs recently, she is already asleep. Early the next morning, Shinjin is alone washing pots and pans while the rest of the family lines up outside the bathroom. Miso silently waits in line at the back. It is a painfully awkward morning. After he finishes washing up, the family has all gone out, and the exhausted Shinjin is asleep at the table. Miso personally cooks a delicious meal for her. For someone who has spent years caring for her family, it is the first time anyone has cooked for her. Looking at old photos of Shinjin performing proudly with the band, Miso turns one over and writes a farewell note on the back. Then he quietly leaves with his luggage and continues wandering. The drummer Daeong lives alone, but his home is like a garbage dump. Not long ago, his wife divorced him, and it crushed him. Since then, he has been unable to pull himself together. He does not even dare enter the master bedroom where they once slept as a married couple. After making a simple arrangement for Miso, he locks himself in the spare room. Miso knocks on the door, wanting to talk, but Daeong hides inside, staring stupidly at wedding photos and drowning his sorrow in alcohol. Miso lights a cigarette and squats by the door, sharing his sadness through the closed door. The next morning, Miso gets up early and cooks a whole table of food. Seeing that Daeong seems a little better than the night before, he feels slightly relieved. After Daeong leaves for work, Miso begins to clean. The filthy house, once piled high with trash, is transformed and looks brand new. Even so, Miso's boyfriend cannot accept that he is staying at a male friend's house. He is unhappy that Miso is sleeping in another man's home, and even more upset that he himself has no ability to properly take care of Miso. He hates that now even going to the movies or eating a meal together requires him to make money by donating blood. To keep his boyfriend from worrying or feeling guilty, Miso agrees to leave. That night, Shinjin and her husband argue because of Miso's arrival. Miso feels guilty for causing trouble, so he silently begins wiping the floor. Suddenly, Shinjin walks in. Seeing Miso kneeling on the ground, she snatches the rag away. She cannot help but complain. Even though her in-laws run a restaurant, not one of them has cooked a single meal since she got married. She has silently taken on all the housework herself. Miso quietly listens as she pours out the bitterness of her life. Who would guess that this housewife was once an ambitious keyboard player? The hardships of life have worn away her sharp edges. After so many years apart, they cannot help reminiscing about the old days. Miso gently brushes the dust off an electronic keyboard nearby and plays a song Shinjin once wrote. When he turns and asks if she has written any songs recently, she is already asleep. Early the next morning, Shinjin is alone washing pots and pans while the rest of the family lines up outside the bathroom. Miso silently waits in line at the back. It is a painfully awkward morning. After he finishes washing up, the family has all gone out, and the exhausted Shinjin is asleep at the table. Miso personally cooks a delicious meal for her. For someone who has spent years caring for her family, it is the first time anyone has cooked for her. Looking at old photos of Shinjin performing proudly with the band, Miso turns one over and writes a farewell note on the back. Then he quietly leaves with his luggage and continues wandering. The drummer Daeong lives alone, but his home is like a garbage dump. Not long ago, his wife divorced him, and it crushed him. Since then, he has been unable to pull himself together. He does not even dare enter the master bedroom where they once slept as a married couple. After making a simple arrangement for Miso, he locks himself in the spare room. Miso knocks on the door, wanting to talk, but Daeong hides inside, staring stupidly at wedding photos and drowning his sorrow in alcohol. Miso lights a cigarette and squats by the door, sharing his sadness through the closed door. The next morning, Miso gets up early and cooks a whole table of food. Seeing that Daeong seems a little better than the night before, he feels slightly relieved. After Daeong leaves for work, Miso begins to clean. The filthy house, once piled high with trash, is transformed and looks brand new. Even so, Miso's boyfriend cannot accept that he is staying at a male friend's house. He is unhappy that Miso is sleeping in another man's home, and even more upset that he himself has no ability to properly take care of Miso. He hates that now even going to the movies or eating a meal together requires him to make money by donating blood. To keep his boyfriend from worrying or feeling guilty, Miso agrees to leave. That night, Miso jokingly sees his boyfriend off on the bus. After his boyfriend leaves, Miso's smile gradually disappears because the cold reality has already hit him head-on. That same night, he packs his luggage and prepares to leave. Before going, he finally persuades Daeong to open the door. The two of them sit on the balcony smoking together. Seeing how miserable Daeong is, Miso suggests that he should do what Miso did and move away, leave the past behind. At this moment, Daeong finally lets out all the grievances he has been holding in for so long. He says he cannot leave as freely as Miso can. He only took out a loan to buy the house because he was getting married. But now the house is no longer a home, it is a prison. The mortgage alone costs him $1 million a month, while his salary is only $1.9 million. It will take 20 full years before the house truly belongs to him, and by then he will already be old. By that time, the house itself may already be outdated. He has thrown the best years of his life into it, only to get a cage in return. The more he thinks about it, the more wronged and miserable he feels. Miso's heart aches for him. He places a hand on Daeong's shoulder and patiently comforts him. He is always like this, used to taking care of others, while he himself does not even have a place to stay. That night, Miso can only spend the night in a coffee shop. He washes up in a public restroom and endures the strange looks of passers-by. In this falsely prosperous world, he has become an outsider. He has no mortgage, no car loan, and not even a proper job. All he has are soaring prices again and again, trying to crush the tiny flame inside him. Miso then goes to see A-Jin, the band's former lead singer. He is almost 40, still single, and living with his parents. He also seems rather socially awkward. A-Jin's mother is extremely enthusiastic and prepares a large table of food to welcome Miso, leaving him flattered and surprised. During the meal, the mother warmly introduces their family and then even starts asking about Miso's situation. When she learns that Miso works as a housekeeper, her face lights up with joy. Later, when Miso wants to go outside for a cigarette, A-Jin's mother tells him to smoke indoors instead. He can even flick the ashes on the floor if he wants, while the old father trembles as he holds up an ashtray. It leaves Miso feeling awkward. Sure enough, when it is time to sleep, the guest room is filled with peppers laid out to dry, so Miso has no choice but to squeeze into A-Jin's room and sleep on the floor beside him. In the middle of the night, A-Jin suddenly says he hopes Miso will stay and marry him. He says he does not care whether Miso already has a boyfriend. He only wants Miso to marry him, so he can fulfill his aging parents' wish. He sees that Miso is drifting around with no stable place to live, so he makes this outrageous proposal. In his words, it would solve his marriage problem and Miso's living problem at the same time. Unable to stand this nonsense, Miso gets up to leave, and A-Jin finally apologizes and falls silent. The next morning, Miso finds that the huge house is empty except for him. Breakfast is prepared for him on the table. He wants to go out to buy cigarettes, but then he discovers the door is locked and will not open no matter what he does. Thinking back on everything that happened the previous day, he instantly realizes the truth. This family has taken a fancy to him and wants to keep him there as their daughter-in-law. He panics, hurriedly packs his luggage, finally finds a back door he can escape through, leaves a farewell note, and flees. Now he has only one last choice left. The guitarist Jung Mei has already married into a wealthy family. Compared with the others, her life is unbelievably luxurious. Every day she only needs to stay home with the child and wait for the nanny to handle everything. Because Miso once helped her in school, she generously gives him one of the guest rooms. Looking at the wide floor-to-ceiling windows and sitting down on the soft bed, Miso suddenly feels that life should have been like this all along. Without the pressure of money or society, he could live comfortably. A small home, perhaps with a window, waking up to sunlight every day, doing a little work, then enjoying the simple happiness brought by whiskey and cigarettes. This slow pace of life gradually brings back the old Miso, and his long empty wallet finally has some money in it again. The most important things in Miso's life, besides cigarettes and whiskey, are of course his boyfriend. One day, his boyfriend generously invites him to eat at a trendy restaurant. Unexpectedly, on the way back, his boyfriend suddenly tells him that he is going abroad for work, all the way to Saudi Arabia in the Middle East. He volunteered for the transfer himself. He has chosen to compromise with ordinary life, to give up his dream of becoming a comic artist, and to try living what people call a normal life. Miso cannot accept that his boyfriend is leaving. But his boyfriend understands something more important. They cannot go on living in poverty together forever. If he goes away for 2 years, he can save a large amount of money, enough for them to buy a house and live together. In the end, people all wake up sooner or later. They follow the current and compromise with life. But Miso stubbornly keeps the innocence of youth and continues stumbling forward in a world full of worldly rules and hidden social expectations. At dinner one evening, Jungmei's husband learns that she and Miso were university classmates and casually asks what Jungmei was like back then. Without thinking much, Miso honestly says that Jungmei was a very warm person and also played the guitar very well. Jungmei's expression instantly darkens. In the eyes of her rich husband, being warm and able to play guitar is not something positive. It may suggest she was popular with men and not stable. The husband gets up to go smoke, and Miso, completely unaware that the atmosphere has changed, follows him outside, leaving Jungmei sitting alone. This tactless behavior makes Jungmei very unhappy. That very night, Jungmei makes things clear. She frankly says that she only took Miso in to help him through an emergency, until he saved enough money to rent another place. She cannot understand why Miso would rather give up rent than give up smoking and drinking. Miso says that if a friend stayed at his house, he would be very happy. And perhaps as a single person, he can think that way. But for Jungmei, who has a family and children, she does not want a permanent outsider living in her home. She then opens her wallet, gives him some money, and tells him to find a place as soon as possible. Miso has no choice but to begin searching for a room. No matter how the agent praises the place, it is still tiny, cramped, dusty, and not even 10 square meters. Yet even such a room requires an enormous deposit and a high monthly rent. Helpless, Miso lowers his standards again and again, until he finally comes to a remote, dark, damp room with mold growing on the walls, and with no water or electricity. Calling it a room is already generous. Even the agent does not want to step inside. There is no deposit, but it still costs 100,000 a month. At this point, Miso completely gives up. Dragging his suitcase, he returns to the house of the employer he used to work for often, only to discover that the woman, who was hardly ever home, has actually come back. The woman who once dressed in jewels and elegance is now alone by the window, looking worn out and exhausted, with injuries on her body. She says she is pregnant, but does not know who the father is. They have become not only employer and employee, but also friends. Miso cannot bear to see her so heartbroken, so he gently comforts her. His concern moves her and makes her feel guilty. Crying, she says that after breaking up with her boyfriend, she also has to give this apartment back to him. She has lost her home, and naturally Miso has lost his work too. The sadder people are, the more they need good food to heal them. Miso personally cooks a delicious meal. The two of them sit around under warm light and eat heartily. Living in the moment actually feels very good. Then the day comes for Miso's boyfriend to leave. The two of them say goodbye reluctantly on the street. His boyfriend is wearing a well-tailored suit. He says the company specially made it for him, and he wore it today so Miso could see him looking sharp and confident. Miso praises him while handing him a sketchbook, hoping he will not give up his dream of drawing comics and can continue creating over there. It feels as if they have 1,000 things to say, yet do not know where to start. The impatient driver urges them on. It is finally time for his boyfriend to go. After one more embrace, he turns and leaves, while Miso remains standing alone in the early winter morning. Overcome with emotion, the boyfriend suddenly turns back, pulls Miso into his arms, and kisses him goodbye. Both of them understand without speaking that 2 years is neither long nor short, but it is long enough to destroy a fragile pair of lovers. This goodbye may perhaps be forever. Miso drags his suitcase into the bar he often visits and orders his usual whiskey, only to discover that even the price of alcohol has gone up. The first snow of early winter falls quietly. It is so white and still, just like the strands of white hair growing silently on Miso's head. Later, Aegean's father passes away. It becomes a rare occasion for all the old friends to gather again. Wei Ning hands out wedding invitations. He is getting married. Everyone's life is steadily moving forward, except that Miso is absent. When his name comes up, they suddenly realize that they have not heard any news from him for a very long time. That simple and innocent person seems to have vanished from their world. They each begin talking about the last time they saw him, each remembering his kindness. Then, at the moment they pass by one another, a figure with a head full of white hair suddenly appears. It is Miso. In the end, he had crossed medicine off his budget, letting his dark hair turn white like snow. In a city glowing with thousands of lights, he sets up a small tent in one corner, lights a warm yet lonely lamp, and that becomes his home. That is the end of the film. The movie is called Little Palace Maid. In an era where people are used to judging success by property deeds and bank statements, this film throws out an extremely rebellious question. When cigarettes get more expensive, whiskey gets more expensive, rent gets more expensive, and your wallet is empty, would you choose to give up smoking and drinking to keep your tiny room, or give up the room and wander with your cigarettes and whiskey? Miso chooses the latter without hesitation. That one choice alone is enough to stir up a storm in people's hearts. Some see him as a graceful rebel who refuses to bow to the world. Others call him a loser who refuses to better himself. But no matter what people think, no one can deny that this white-haired person with clear eyes is like a sharp scalpel, slicing open the glamorous skin of modern society and exposing the bloody truth of survival underneath. The film is not praising poverty, nor is it romanticizing wandering. It is simply asking, in this noisy age, in an almost extreme way, a question every one of us should think about. Are we working hard and making endless compromises for life itself, or just for the appearance of a respectable life in other people's eyes? Life may be a long winter. Some choose to stay warm inside tall buildings. Some choose to light a cigarette in the wind and snow. Buildings may collapse one day, but the cigarette in your hand, as long as you want it to, can keep glowing until spring.